Shifting the Narrative, the evolution of local media in a changing world. Moderated by DCN's Cecily Fernandez.
Welcome to Conversations with Women in Media and Entertainment. I'm Cecily Fernandez, and I'm so excited for this topic, and I couldn't have two better guests to talk about the evolution of local media. Joining me are NBC4 anchor Sean Yancey and Fox 5 reporter Maureen Ume. Thank you guys so much for being with us. I know you guys are in the whole breaking news world, so to have you here with us is really a pleasure. And this is a great topic, but before we get into the big topic, you both have such great stories. I'm wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about your background and how you decided to go into local news.
First, thank you for having us. And let me just say, for those of you who don't know, Maureen and I have been friends for 20 years.
About 20 years. We started a year apart here in the DC market, a year to the date.
So we've been here for a long time. That's longer than 20 years. That's like 23 years.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, a long time. My journey to be a broadcast journalist began back in third grade. I am from Indianapolis, Indiana, and my father is a pediatrician there, and he used to appear on the Ask the Doctor segment on one of the local stations. And the news anchor who interviewed him, her name is Barbara Boyd. She was the first black news anchor, woman news anchor in the state of Indiana. So while my dad was answering questions, I was staring at her, and I was like, I want to do what she does when I grow up.
Nice.
And so ever since third grade, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I got involved in projects in high school where I was part of a student-run television station. I ended up going to Ball State University to be a part of their radio TV program, and graduated from Ball State, and my first job wasn't in television, it was radio at a country radio station. I was the public affairs director, and I thought, ooh, this is great. My parents were like, yeah, just get a job. It wasn't my favorite thing to do, but radio was a great training ground for voice, for developing your voice and just learning better skills. And probably about a year and a half after being in radio, I got my first TV job, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Stayed there for about 11 months, went to Pittsburgh for about 5 years, and I have been in Washington, D.C. now for 24 years. September 11th was my second day on the job here in Washington, D.C.
Amazing. Yeah. What a way to start off in Washington.
I was in my car listening to WTOP radio when the plane hit the Pentagon, and I walked into the station, and the news director at the time said, Yancey, your week of getting to know this place is over. Get in a car with a photographer and go to the Pentagon.
Wow, talk about sink or swim.
Absolutely. Yeah. Boom, right into it.
Well, we're better for it to have you so long here in D.C.
Thank you.
And it's great, when you have a story like that, it's such a luxury when a person knows so early on, this is what I want to do, because I meet so many young people and they really struggle with what they want to do. So great to know that some people have that inspiration from a very young age. What about you?
Thank you for having us again this morning, or this afternoon, I should say. My story is very similar to Sean's. My family immigrated here from Nigeria. We lived in London, Nigeria, then immigrated here when I was 7 years old. And in my entire life, I think maybe a function of being a middle child, I felt like I needed to be seen and heard. And so when we moved here, we moved to the Chicago area, and I just remember watching the news. There were two men, Bill Curtis, Walter Jacobson.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
I mean, these are legends in the TV market in Chicago, and every day they were exposing some sort of corruption at City Hall and holding people to account. And all I thought was, I want to do that. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what it took to do it, but I just knew I want to do that. And so I thought, well, the best thing to do is, I'll write little stories and read them on my elementary school newscasts. That's what I did. They let me do the announcements. I got to high school. I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll join the debate team, and maybe I'll do things for the newspaper. So I did any and everything that you could possibly think of that I thought would make me a better journalist. I was always an avid reader as well. Got to college and worked my butt off. I had every internship under the sun. I was a radio DJ. I worked at the TV station there in town. It got to the point where I was doing so many internships, they actually had me on air as a college student.
Wow.
Before I graduated, and I just thought, this is all I want to do, because I want to tell stories. And for me, it was more than just telling stories. Being from an immigrant community, sometimes you feel marginalized, and I felt, well, I could be a voice for them. Since I have assimilated enough where I sound the part and I look the part, maybe I can infiltrate somehow and help them have a better stance. And you know, you almost think you're a superhero in some ways, because as a kid, you just want to help.
Yeah.
And that's what I grew up with. And so here I am today. I've been so fortunate to have a great ride. I worked in Champaign, Illinois, South Carolina, a little bit in Atlanta, came to DC a year after Sean Yancey. September 11th was my 2002 was my first day on the job here. And I hit the ground running. It was the anniversary, then IMF protest, then the sniper situation. So there was no training ground for me as well. Just hit the ground running. But I tell you, this business, when you truly go into it because you want to be a storyteller and you want to help, it is life-changing. And I think for those of us who came up when we did, this is what we got into it for, to make a difference in that way. It's not about being seen and heard at all. It's about making that difference. And when you do and you feel it, there is no better feeling in the world than knowing that you've had an impact in a positive way in someone's life.
And you have to have such an appreciation for that, because most people know newsrooms are pressure cookers. Schedules can be really tough. You're getting up at 1:30 in the morning.
Goodness, yes.
You're staying up late at night. As far as lifestyle wise, sometimes it's not so great. So you have to have something. There has to be something about it that makes it worth it. And if you just want to be on TV, it's not worth it. I mean, there has to be something a
You
little
find that
bit
out
more.
very quickly.
Yeah.
When you got into the business to now, I mean, you both have had like a front row seat to these seismic changes that are going on, I mean, in every industry, but particularly in media. So I'm curious what you think is the biggest change that you've seen over your years here in DC.
I think the biggest change that I've seen is how people get their news. When we started, and earlier, I think when we were children, there were three channels. You know, you
Right.
got it ABC, NBC, and CBS. Eventually, Fox came in, and you could get news there. Eventually, you started to see the cable networks, the CNN. Then came MSNBC. And now people get their news from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, wherever it is. Social media is king, and that's where people are getting news. And I think the way we tell stories, we've had to adapt because of that.
Right.
And also, people's attention spans are a little bit different, where, 40 years ago, maybe a newscast, you could do a 6-minute story. Nowadays, people want their news fast
Right.
and quick, and so we've had to adapt, and I think that's one of the biggest changes I've seen.
Yeah, and Maureen, I have a feeling you would agree with that, but tell me what you...
Absolutely. I mean, that is the biggest change. And also you see that journalists are becoming younger. And
Right.
in my opinion, sometimes, there's nothing wrong with youth, but I think there has to be a lot to be said for experience. And so I think that news directors and whoever the decision makers are have got to, they've got to be cognizant of the fact that experience matters. And so it takes time to build that. And there's no knock on these young people. A lot of them are so gifted and so talented. But I think there's something to be said about experience. And so when that's missing, I think it leads to having a less informed society. And so we need to be very careful that we're not throwing the baby away with the bathwater when we want to innovate and want new and younger. We have to make sure that we keep the people who still have some sort of knowledge of what's happening and can share that in a way that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's important. I think it's hard for young people to relate to what it was like to try and get into the business. I mean, just being able to get yourself on camera I remember trying to get, shooters to let me go out with them so I could stand there and be like, let me do my stand-up, and it would be horrible and I couldn't do it again. And, now you have an iPhone and and you're off and running.
Absolutely.
So the barriers to entry are so much lower. But again, it's like, at least I feel like back in the day, because we didn't have the luxury of, technology, it took time. And so you had time to kind of work on a lot of different skills. But where do you see things moving? I know that both of you probably have a lot more work now because every industry is trying to do more with digital media. So I have a feeling that, if you're doing a newscast, you're also having to do a lot of social media and stay very present. Can you tell me a little bit about that change and how that's impacted your job?
I think overall, you will see a lot of reporters, a lot of broadcast journalists sharing their stories online, sharing, if it's not a full 3-minute story, maybe it's a snippet that they've put on TikTok or they've put on Instagram, to not only tell the story, but also to share the story with an even wider audience. But again, it's that how people are consuming the news and in sound bites or smaller pieces of the news. And we have to evolve. If not, we're going to get left behind. Is social media my favorite thing? No, not at all. But I think that in the age that we're in, it's necessary.
Yeah.
Not everybody does it, and that's fine too. So I think you have to find where you're comfortable,
Right.
and do what works for you.
Yeah. What about you? Do you feel that same pressure? Maybe it's not, and it's not just coming from yourself. Are you told
Yeah.
within the newsroom, like, we expect you to have a certain level of presence in social media?
Oh, absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and I truly struggle with this because I'm not naturally inclined to tweet something or to share a story, but we are told this is part of your duty. And so I make it a point, and I try. I'm still not good at it. And Sean, you're really good at it, though. I mean, you've got this, right? This is her tagline for a lot of, and I love that you do that because they ask you to share not even just your stories, but a little bit of yourself.
Your family,
Anything to just
yeah.
engage the audience. And so I struggle with this sometimes because I'm thinking, I don't have anything else to say. My gosh, it's like I've been on air all day. I just want to go home. I've got a 13-year-old. I've got to take her to a volleyball.
See, that's
I have
what people
nothing
want to know.
and it's funny
We wanna
because
know about the
it's
volleyball.
funny. My news director said that to me, and I said, "No, you don't. I mean, what do you care about that?" But you know, I'm struggling to find that balance of how much to share and where to draw that line. I think as much as we're in front of the camera, you'll find that a lot of us are actually introverts. And so it's a struggle to always be on.
And I think also that goes back to a big change. Probably, you know, it used to be in journalism, they'd always say over and over again, you're not the story.
Right.
And that's how, you know, we came up, just like you're not the story and that you're not the focus. And if you turn the focus on yourself, that was looked down upon. So now it's like, you're the story. We want, you know, and I think that's much easier, I think, for younger people who have grown up in that and they're used to sharing. But for people who consider themselves to be journalists, they are trained to keep themselves out of it. So to all of a sudden ask people to put yourself out there, your opinions, what are you doing today? And, you know, it's just like, you know, it just doesn't feel natural. But maybe as things move forward, there's a way to share that's not so much personal, but maybe just like behind the scenes. It's a little different take on social media, but at the end of the day, people want to see your dog. Right. They want to see
your home, your children.
So in that regard, I get it because we're part of this community,
right?
And we're sharing a little bit of us with the community, and I think it helps our viewers get to know us a little bit better. And I know it doesn't work for everybody, and so you have to figure out, you know, how far do you want to go? How far do you not want to go? Some people don't want to share pictures of their children, and I completely understand that. And some people's children don't want to have their pictures there. I have a son who got to a certain age, and he was like, "Mom, please don't post any more pictures of me without my permission." And at first I was like, "Excuse me, I'm your mother." But then I'm like, no, he has that right, and I understand because his friends were following me, and he goes, "Mom, I walk in, and they're like, you know, look at you, and you were 4, you know." And so I think you have to find what works for you.
Right.
But I do think it's important to, and again, doesn't work for everybody, but we're a part of this community, so I don't mind, for me personally, sharing a little bit about my life and my family with the community that I am a part of.
Yeah, and just from the outside, I can say, from a viewer perspective, they see the two of you. You're so put together. You're so great on camera. You know, it's kind of like to find out that you have a life and that you actually have to like run home or you're doing stuff.
We're real
it's
people.
like it's really reassuring. It's like, wow, these are real people, and they have, you know, days where they are, you know, running late or they're doing, you know, so
That's
in that
almost
way,
every day for me.
But let's take a moment to talk about, I'm interested in, you know, the industry, and we talked a little bit about this. Tell me, when I'm looking at research, what I'm finding is that network news and cable news, you know, they're seeing huge drop-offs in viewership, and they're trying to compete with podcasts, and there's a lot of financial instability. Local news is a little bit different in that it seems that there's a level of financial stability that the industry, the local news industry, is adapting to digital, using digital platforms. But I'm on the outside, so tell me on the inside, what is the feeling about the future for local news media?
You want to tackle that first?
Okay. I think that local news facing similar issues that the networks are facing. I think we're trying to do more with less, and trying to adapt in this world of social media, how we use digital. We stream our newscast.
yeah.
We did have newscasts that did not air on our channel at a regular time. It does now, but we used to have a 7 o'clock newscast, but you could only find it on your streaming channels. Now it's on the air and on streaming channels, but I think local news is going through something similar as well, where they're trying to find ways to adapt and still make money and bring that money in, because it's not there because people can get their news other places. It used to be that you had to wait until you came home after work at 6 o'clock to get the news,
Right.
or you read the newspaper in the morning. You don't need that because you get alerts throughout the day right on your phone. And so we're trying to get that same audience who is looking at their phone all day. And so we're like, how do we attract you to still watch us, even though you got almost everything on your phone?
Right.
And that's the challenge, because we're being asked to now reinvent ourselves, tell news in a different way, to grab the audience that's used to those quick stories. So how are we telling the story differently? And that's really a mandate for us, because we're seeing that everything is being pushed to the digital channels, and eventually that's all you're going to see. The regular channels you're used to will not exist. They're pushing everything to these digital channels, and they're wanting us to tell stories in a different way. So our challenge now is, how do I make this regular TV story more engaging, more interesting? The peril in that is that I think sometimes you go overboard and you do things that don't make sense and don't accurately tell the story. And so, you almost become a caricature of yourself in trying to be something that represents this new world. We have to find that balance, but you have to adapt, because otherwise you're going to become a dinosaur, extinct. So you have to figure out a way to make it work. This digital world is the new world, and like it or not, we've got to figure out a way to make it work for us, whatever that means. We've got this, our digital channel that we, as I was telling you earlier, we're putting a lot of stuff on there. I'll be honest, I don't think all of it is great, but we have to fill that space, and we're every day trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. It's going to be a lot of bad stuff for a bit, folks, so bear with us.
Very honest.
But it's true,
You're comparing it to your standards.
Right.
You're not comparing it to the standards of what's generally on TikTok, or
exactly. Well, and I'm glad you said that, because I think we do suffer from perfection paralysis.
You do.
Right?
You're
Where we're
looking at
thinking,
everything through a professional lens, and then you look at what's getting a lot of hits. You're like, what? So
that's true. That's true.
Part of it is, you probably have to shift your expectations a lot too.
I am trying, but I tell you, it's a
you gotta
it's a
lower
real
your standards a lot.
Well, yeah, actually, in some ways that is true, but it's disheartening, because you tell people, be all you can be the best. It's got to be up to the standard. And when you see those standards eroding, it feels to me almost like a dagger to the profession I love, and I wanted nothing more than to be part of it. It feels like this just like the death of it, these nails in a coffin, one by one, killing the craft that we loved.
But I would like to say that, when I talk to people, particularly about local news, there is still a desire. People still feel connected to the news personalities, especially in local news. They like to see the same people. They like to get their morning news from some people, their evening news. That's still very much a part of our culture, and I think that's still going to be there. And I think maybe even the pendulum is swung one way. It might swing back a little, and people might want to be like, I want to see somebody that I feel like I can trust. And you have some confidence in them, and you know what to expect. And even though I think appointment TV is kind of going away, but I do think there still is a strong desire among the community and among viewers to have that, relationship. And I'm sure you get that when you're out and seeing people and the way they respond to you.
I think you make a great point there. I remember who I watched, or my parents watched as a child, and I think people still consistently watch that. I think people in the news, we watch news differently. We might look at all the channels to see what do they lead with, what did they lead with. But we, viewers, I think you find people who you like, or you trust, and that's who you consistently
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
So I do agree with you. I think that will stay the same. It's just how we tell the stories and get the information out and keep attracting the younger viewers in. You know, that will become the challenge, I think, for local TV news,
Right.
because I think, you know, the 20-somethings and the 30-somethings are watching or consuming news differently
Right.
than an older generation.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're consuming so much, you know, different kind of, when they see a traditional newscast, they'll be like, wow, what's this? I'm blown away. It's so new.
hope
you
not.
know?
That's what I thought, right? Dial
Yeah,
telephone,
exactly.
you know?
We'll bring it back around. Well, given that, you know, there's so much pressure and so much change, what do you find yourself telling young people who are interested in getting into the industry? I mean, you know, one thing I think about, because I'm always thinking about, you know, financially, for a long time, if you were talented, local news industry in general was a very good living, you know, for a long time. I mean, there was the heyday for a while in the 90s. I mean, if you were a good local news anchor, reporter, there was very good money in it. And not that that's the only thing, but you like to think when you're talking to young people that, you know, they're going into an industry that has a lot of financial stability. So with that in mind, what's the conversation like when you talk to a young person? It's like, oh, my dream is to do what you do. I watch you all the time. I want to, you know, what warnings do you give them?
I tell people the truth. The money's not there. The money's not there. When you start in this business, do not expect to be paid. I mean, I was making $11,000 a year when
My
I
first job was
graduated.
13.
13. You know, $11,000 a year. I had to drive my laundry home 2.5 hours to do it at my parents' house and steal their quarters or whatever they had laying around at the house. And literally, that's what I did. But I knew that this is what I wanted to do, so I stuck it out. But young people getting into it, you're not going to get rich. And even in these bigger markets where you worked up to get to a place where you can finally afford to live and raise a family, et cetera, these markets aren't paying anymore because they can hire younger, they can hire cheaper, and they know that. And so the salaries are going down. You don't have these multi-million-dollar local anchors like you used to.
Contracts. I mean,
Yes.
and that was a big part of the industry for a while, is that if you were in a big market, those contracts were huge.
Right, and that's no longer the case in most situations. But I will say, if this is something you love, being a storyteller, really kind of holding the feet to the fire of those who need that done, this is the industry for you. I still think there's room for great people to be able to make a difference in the way that we hold people to account and tell stories. So don't shy away because of the money. I always say, do what you love and the money will follow. There's so many different ways to make money in this industry. I mean, with social media and streaming, you will make your money. But if you're a true storyteller, this business still needs you. So please get involved and make the difference that we're here to make.
Yes. Very inspiring. I could talk to you guys all day, but I think I really want to see if there's any questions from our audience. So if you have a question, please make your way up to the microphone so we can get your question in.
Hi.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you guys.
Good afternoon.
You mentioned that you folks in media are learning to pivot and to adjust to the times. And we've seen that definitely on the flex side, you know, where people will say, well, we don't have someone to send, we don't have a camera, we don't have this one. So what are your tips to us? How should we be pivoting and readjusting so that our
great
pitches
question.
are placed?
That's a great question.
So I think the pandemic changed everything. I think for TV news, we learned that we didn't always have to send a camera because Zoom became a thing and we were doing interviews on Zoom. But the other thing you can do is provide video or provide still images along with those press releases, because I know we don't have as many photographers to send out to go get the video or to show up at the press conference. I know if there's something that's a live feed, provide the stream or the YouTube channel to that news station to let them know, here's where you can get the information as well. And it makes it a little bit easier. So you get your coverage, and then the news station also has some place to find video or pictures that they can use.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's spot on.
Okay. All right. Great.
Good afternoon, ladies. First of all, I just want to thank you all both for being here. Sean, especially you. I remember watching you in middle school and high school and being like, I want to do what she does. just because of your presence and how you came across on camera. So I just wanted to say that because I am a fan.
I mean, she's only 25. How are you watching?
Right.
Come on.
Thank you.
And my mom was a journalist, so that's how I grew up. So I just really wanted to ask the question: in the world of media that's constantly fluctuating and changing, it can be unpredictable. I'm really just trying to understand how you all maintain that authenticity and how you stay true to the mission that you first talked about at the beginning.
Authenticity, that's a big issue.
You know what? When you're a real person, you're a real person. Right. That's it. The TV, you can only fake it so long. The TV is going to show who you are after a while. And we have maintained a friendship because we're real. We're real people. We're real sisters. We talk about our ups and downs, and you can't fake it. Mm-hmm. Some people try, and they might go along for a while, but you can't fake it. People see through that, and it's a wrap.
I think she was spot on. You cannot fake it. And in the moments where, I won't say we have to fake it, but it's hard sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so I don't. I unfortunately don't have a poker face.
Oh gosh, me neither.
So sometimes I'll get a friend that texts me, "You need to fix your face," because we've read a story or something happened and it's right here, and I'm like, okay, let me do what I got to do. But I just think you dig deep sometimes.
Yeah.
You remember who you are. The business changes, politics change, and ultimately we're here to tell good stories, to share stories about our community. Sometimes they aren't always positive, but if you remember like what we're really here and why we chose to be a part of this industry that we're in and go back to that place and stay there, I think that's how we stay where we are.
Nice. Okay, last question.
Hi, guys. My name is Zaria Wilson. I recently finished a fellowship with CNN, and I'm a native Washingtonian. I grew up watching you, Sean. I wanted to ask you guys, why D.C.? Like, you can be anywhere in the world. You guys have been here for 2 decades now. So, like, why D.C.? Why stay as a local news anchor here? And how do you feel like being here has benefited your career?
Great question.
I didn't intend to stay here. I'll tell you quickly. I came to get an old boyfriend back. That's what led me here.
No.
I swear.
At the end of the conversation, we get the real situation.
I know,
Okay.
and he was like, "Nope, I can never go back to you." I was like, "Oh man, well I'm here now." Lucky for me, the news director at Fox at the time, she knew me. She wanted to hire me when she worked in Baltimore. Didn't work out then. She was like, "Want to start now?" Sure. So that's why I came here. I always intended to leave, but life is what happens when you're making other plans. Before you know it, I'm here 5 years. Had a daughter, met friends, bought a house, and next thing you know, this is home. And I don't regret it one bit. DC is the center of the world. It really is. Everything happens here. It really does. And it's a beautiful place to call home, and I'm so proud to be here and so honored to be part of this community. And the acceptance, it's humbling, and I don't take that lightly at all. So thank you for giving me an incredible career for all these years, and it looks like it could last longer if I wanted to. Not sure, I might need to pivot in some ways, but I will just say thank you sincerely for making this home and making it feel like everything I thought it would be. So sincerely, thank you.
I'm glad you're here too, Mo.
I'm glad.
I've always said, my husband and I always say, if we hit the lottery tomorrow, where would we move? I might get I will get a much larger place here in the Washington, D.C. area, but I'm not going to move. I might have houses other places, but we love this area. The diversity, as Maureen said, this is the center of the universe. It's just an incredible, beautiful place, and this region has made me feel so comfortable and made me feel like home from, having babies and people watching them grow up and asking me randomly, "Hey, how's Jax?" or "Hey, how's this?" This is truly home for me too. I came here for a job. Originally, I thought, I'm ambitious. I want to go to network. I want to get this. If I don't get this Monday through Friday main anchor job, I was already looking for something else. Well, the blessing happened, and this is what I wanted to do. When I go back and look in high school in my little memory book, it says, "What do you want to do?" It says, "I want to be a main anchor in a top 10 market." And so when that was achieved, that was great. And I became very, very happy here. And I'm still happy and grateful to be here.
Amen.
You guys are such an inspiration. And I gotta say, it's really so wonderful to see two women who are, in some ways, competitors. You're at different, but wonderful
no,
friends.
we're not.
It's great to see that, and you guys clearly are such an inspiration to everyone. So thank you so much for taking
Thank you.
time out of your busy days. I hope that we didn't miss any. I hope you didn't miss any breaking news. We can we can hope.
If we did, there's
we'll
other
fix
people.
it. We're
There's
about
other
to find out.
I got other people for that.
Thanks so much, and thanks for joining us for Conversations with Women in Media and Entertainment.